It feels like you're holding your breath. Like at any moment you could I had an experience of sexual harassment when I first came to NYU. I had just started my program, and I was working with, typically when someone comes to do their Ph.D., they work with an advisor or two advisors. The way the relationship went with it was completely different in terms of the level of professionalism that he exhibited towards me. Basically, over time, he began to act inappropriately with me. And there were other things that were red flags that made me unsurprised that he did touch me in the way that he did. Things like squeezing my hands from across the table, hugging me before and after lab meetings, inviting me to his home in Connecticut, suggesting that we walk to the park alone, only suggesting that we meet when there was alcohol involved, insisting to pay for my alcohol. I was his graduate student, but I never saw his office. So I also decided to go on record with what happened to me. And I reported to Title IX. And a long, drawn-out process that took, I think, maybe a year, less than a year, I'm not exactly sure how long it took. Yeah, it took a long time. It was, the impact on me was immeasurable going through the process. I heard back on the result, which was that my claims were credible, but they did not rise to the level of a violation that would lead to a consequence for him. He is on campus. He's still teaching. I had to find out that information through word of mouth and not through the university. The university made no effort to tell me that he was returning, that I should be aware of his whereabouts, when he would be teaching, when he would be in my building, whether he would be at public talks that I would attend. None of this information was given to me. I've requested it. Yeah. When someone reports something to Title IX, there's like an initial meeting where you meet with either the director or an officer, and you talk about the process, about what might be expected if you were to go forward. And one thing I remember so clearly from that initial meeting was that the Title IX director told me that it was rare that she saw consequences that didn't involve penetration. Consequences for the accused. So I had a lot of meetings to talk about what was going to be asked of me. I eventually had to do it's not a hearing, it's like an intake interview where kind of sort of like this, you sit down with two lawyers, they ask you questions that they have to ask you, like, what were you wearing when he touched you? Did he touch bare skin? Did he touch your clothes? How long did the touch last? Things like that, as if any kind of touch in that area could ever be appropriate, right? I know that these are details they have to take, but there is sort of a re-traumatization that is part of it, because not only do you have to relive it, it's almost like, because when someone asks you, how long did he touch you, the thing in my mind isn't that he did enough? So I would advise people who are considering doing what I've done to know that it is something that takes a lot out of you. This process hurts everyone involved, and the most important thing for me, like the only possible good outcome, is that other students cannot be affected by this man. I reached out to them several times to say, where is the, like, can you give me an update on where my case is? Or can you tell me, who you're interviewing or what we're waiting on here? And what I heard time and time again was either no response, which happened several times, or just silence, emails that were not responded to, or emails that said that we cannot disclose those matters to you. I do not regret doing it. I do think it was the right decision. When I say that you can only lose, I mean that it will take an incredible toll on the person who goes through this. The reason I did this was because I felt like I had some information that should be known. In the future, if something ever happens to anyone again, I will know that my information is also there to help build and corroborate other people's stories who have gone through this. Yeah. First, that I'm so sorry that happened to you, and that should never have happened. But you're not alone in what happened. There are so many of us, and we are not going to stop fighting to make sure that students on this campus feel safe. They have a right to an education that is not in a hostile environment, that isn't one where they feel fear. So, I mean, it sounds cliche, but I have not felt alone in this process. I felt a lot of things, but I have not felt alone. And it's because of the other people who I reached out to who said, yeah, this happened to me too. And the worst thing that we can do is kind of take on these battles, against institution alone. But the more of us that there are, we build. You can't refute evidence. So we are the evidence. We are the evidence walking around on this campus. So build a community to the degree that you can. Share it, talk about it, and then get to the fucking work that you came here to do. Yeah.